ukitaka kuuliza swali, you're allowed to ask questions. Just make sure that at least usini distract katikati sa ile I'm in my thought process. And as introduced, my name is Lilian Momina. First, I'm a registered clinical nutritionist, and I'm also an alumni, and I'm still a student at Kenyatta University, so it's definitely a pleasure to be back. And apart from that, I serve as the National Treasurer of the Kenya Union of Nutritionists and Dietitians. And as Sylvie said, we run, together with my partner Charity, we run the Nutritionist Corner. So, of course, in today's session, we're going to talk about something that I'm sure we have all had, or we have all come across it. That is basically an introduction to gut microbiota, and you're definitely going to look into the key foundations that all nutrition students, or everyone who's just an enthusiast of nutrition and health, should actually be interested in when it comes to gut microbiome. So if we are together, if you have questions, I'll try and finish by 8:40 latest, that you can have a brief Q&A. And because I'm introducing the session, I will not be so brief, so that you guys can join in tomorrow. We have an amazing, or Sylvia has an amazing list of speakers, including my partner Charity, who will be to ensure that we do justice, or they do justice, or together they do justice with this topic, gut microbiome. So when you hear about gut microbiome, what exactly is it? I would like you to type in the chat box what exactly you understand that gut microbiome is, because in the last decade alone, we have seen that gut health has actually now become the interest and of the central determinant of human health. Anywhere that you go, all socials, there's the gut health and nutrition, there's the gut health and obesity, there's the gut health and immunity, there's gut health and mental disorders, gut health and skin, gut health and hormonal functions, gut health and fertility, gut health and everything. Because the whole idea, we have actually come to understand the importance of this gut, what scientists call it forgotten organ, but it's not really forgotten, because we're still in the right time. So tonight I will walk you through 5 sub-themes so that we can be able to understand, because you see, you are the future of nutrition, and if anyone is interested, of course, they need to understand what is gut health. So as I have said, the human gut is home to extraordinary ecosystem with over 100 trillion microorganisms. That is basically the bacteria, the fungi, the viruses, the yeast, and this community is what is called a microbiome. I hope we are together. So these microorganisms actually interact actively with our cells, the foods that we are eating, our metabolism, and even our brain. And they actually help determine how we digest food, how we regulate weight, how we respond to infections, or even how we behave under stress. In many ways, the microbiome is usually referred to as the control center of the human health. So this is just basically a further explanation of what the gut health is. As I have said, it has more than 150 times more genes than the human genome, and it is responsible for over 70% of the human immune system. So ukiwa mgonjwa kidogo kidogo hivi, unafaa kujua that wewe ndio uko na shida ya tumbo and you need something that will rectify that. So it is very important. So it also produces neurotransmitters that influence mood and cognition, or even like when you unasikia, and it's also considered an organ recently. Yeah? So why is it important? Why the gut health? Why does it matter? The first thing is, of course, when it comes to matters, metabolic regulations. So it has been shown to shape our metabolism and even weight. Like there's a current trend where we are having women and our influencers, even males, actually overutilizing, I will call it, or misusing the current medications for maybe management of certain conditions like diabetes, or even like the weight loss procedures, because people want to lose weight in a short, easy way. So they try so much to do that. But again, if you optimize your gut, you can actually now help your body break down and the fat and all that. Because the gut microbiome breaks down dietary fibers into the short chain fatty acids that actually, such as maybe like butyrate and propionate, and this actually improve insulin sensitivity. They regulate appetite hormones, the GLPs that are being abused. They reduce inflammation and they enhance metabolic rate. That is how it actually promotes metabolic function. And of course, we also have the other function that I've talked about, that is the immune function. And over here, we're going to talk about how it trains and it supports your immune system. As I have said, with over 70% of immune cells found in the gut system or gut lining. Of course, we have to take care of our gut so that we can train our immune system to differentiate from self and threat. Now, how do we do that? We make sure we are going to talk about that at the end of it. So we are going to, of course, the foundations of nutrition and lifestyle and all that actually help into or that actually help in promoting gut functionality. So a healthy microbiome, as I have said, actually protects against pathogens. It regulates inflammation and it strengthens the gut barrier integrity. And we have seen a surge in increase of cases like allergies, autoimmune diseases, and even recurrent infections in our vulnerable populations like children, our elderly, or even working population currently. They are vulnerable because the habits that we are currently, the young adults, are actually exhibiting make them very vulnerable, but we are yet to be classified as vulnerable. So of course, a healthy gut or a functional gut system actually protects us against that. And of course, we also have the aspect of the gut brain axis. And over here, we're going to talk about things like maybe mood, cravings, and mental clarity. Yeah? So the microbes in our intestines actually produce serotonins and the kinagaba and dopamine, and this actually influence mood and reduce stress, cravings, and emotional eating. I'm sure if in your interactions you have overcome or you've come across someone who's struggling with emotional eating disorders where they cannot be able to control what they're eating. And this is all rooted into gut health. So it is very important to have a balanced gut if you want to have a balanced mind. If you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with low moods, if you have a lot of brain fog and low energy levels, then we need to work on our gut. So what changes or what happens when things go wrong? You get into a state we call gut dysbiosis. And what exactly is that? So as you're seeing on your screen, gut dysbiosis refers to imbalances of beneficial versus harmful bacteria. I hope bado tuko pamoja. Tuko pamoja? Yeah. So we are talking about gut dysbiosis. So it is associated with okay. It is associated with type 2 diabetes, PCOS, depression, and anxiety, emotional eating, and binge eating, among others. So that state whereby you have more of the bad and less of the good bacteria. If you are there's that, the pathogens. The pathogens are taught in kuna second year, kuna hiyo communicable, and then there's that one that watu walikuwa wanaenda pale. There's that unit on not food analysis, the one people are taught about microbiology. Sorry, there's microbiology 1 and microbiology 2. So if you've gotten to that stage where you've learned about the various pathogens that we have in our body, in our environment, or even in our ecosystem. And the same kind of ecosystem, as I've said, exists in our stomach or even in our gut linings. So but again, you see, we need to have a balance of both the good so that the body can know when to fight and when not to fight. And a state of dysbiosis happens when you have more of the harmful bacteria outweighing the good bacteria, and this can actually lead to the occurrences of conditions like diarrhea. Now the diseases actually happen. Now you start having the small complications here and there that we are all aware about. Bado tuko pamoja? So when okay, when you get to this state of gut dysbiosis, now that is where now you start getting the conditions like maybe obesity, where now the dysbiosis, because of the increased pathogens or the increased bad bacteria, you're going to have a lot of harvest from foods, you're going to experience fat storage, and there's also going to be appetite dysregulation, so a lot when they cannot control their food intake. If you found yourself in a situation where you're not able to say nimeshiba, unakula tu unakula, then kuna shida na tumbo, because again, now that is where the link between gut health and dysbiosis actually comes in. And of course, there's also the issue where we are having a lot of disorientation in the serotonin or even the GABA pathways, and this leads to things like cravings, emotional eating, poor stress, and low levels of tolerance. I'm sure. And now, before we get to how nutrition actually affects the gut, or what we can do to actually promote gut functionality, let's just talk about briefly. We're going to get into the specific. Yes? Okay. Now, as I was saying, before we get into...
Please let's mute our mics.
Okay. Now, before we get into how nutrition actually impacts the gut microbiota, I want you to have a look at the Nini in your screen. This is basically some of the compilation that one of our other nutritionists, Grace and I, we were doing some presentation up with this analysis, whereby this E-equal, it's data that is available. If you come across it, you can definitely come up with such charts where we have high fiber diet, or even like the varied nutritious diet that we actually recommend. The beneficial bacteria actually improve the beneficial bacteria, and we have the low fiber, or the highly processed, highly refined, highly the bad foods, let's call them that because I don't have another name. They reduce the beneficial bacteria, and this is definitely associated with high cases of dysbiosis and occurrences of disease. We have seen an eruption of cases of NCDs like type 2 diabetes. We have kindly mute your mic. Thank you. We have seen a surge of cases where we have a lot of various cancers. Cancer is an immune dysregulation problem. We also have the issues of type 2 diabetes, inflammation, and all that. All these are actually linked to gut dysbiosis. So as we talk about the nutrition strategies to improve gut health, I want us to talk about first the foundations of a healthy gut microbiome. Then we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of the nutrition strategies to improve gut health. So number one, we need to have the diversity or the beneficial bacteria. How do you achieve the beneficial bacteria to increase? You have this by now taking up the varied nutritious foods that you have talked about. Because as I have said, greater microbial diversity actually now improves the resilience, the body's ability to actually now defend you against chronic inflammation, chronic stress, and even like chronic, if you're having like your body needs repair. You know, the body is built in such a way that it is supposed to be able to repair and do away with bad things that it doesn't need. But you see, when you're chronically exposing it to bad situations, then it becomes a problem. So, of course, you need to consume adequate fiber. And one of the recommendation is, of course, an average of 30 grams per day. I know it looks very small. When you think about 30 grams, you're thinking, oh my God, who doesn't achieve this? But unfortunately, a greater percentage of us, even you who's a nutrition student, even me who's a dietitian, if I am not intentional about it, with the current foods that we have in our market, it is very possible for me to miss achieving this this dietary fiber requirements. So we need to start that. And of course, you need to again, you need to now support the integrity of the gut lining. How do you do that? Now you now start introducing cultures that are actually going to support the beneficial bacteria, and this includes fermented milks, maybe yogurt, kimchi, kefir, and the likes. And of course, you can always do a prebiotic and probiotic supplement. But again, you're not supposed to now show your body that, because your body can be able to ferment, if you're alive, your colon is functioning, your body should be able to ferment foods that you get, you give it, and should also be able to get those cultures from the fermented foods that you're giving it, and actually get the prebiotics from the foods that you're eating if your diet is good, so that it can feed the cultures to repopulate and such. So of course you can always do the prebiotics and probiotic supplements if your diet is actually lacking. But again, you can, as I've said, you first explore the diet before we get to the supplements. And of course, some very good examples of prebiotics and prebiotics. We also have bananas, we have garlics, we have all sorts of onions, oats, and beans. These are great for feeding the beneficial cultures that you will introduce if you actually take up what is it called? If you actually take up an increase in the numbers or the quantities of fermented foods. And of course, there's also that aspect of now the balanced lifestyle factors. Now, here we are going to talk about things like hydration. We're going to talk about things like quality of sleep, stress management, regular physical activities and such. But we start with the hydration and the circadian rhythm, whereby it is necessary for you to make sure that you're taking enough water and to support your metabolic health. And this actually promotes microbial stability. Dehydration is bad. And most people, and Kenya is hot 24/7. Mtu atasema ati yo kuna baridi sisikii kunywa maji. No. Provided you're alive, you're supposed, and I know because we are nutritionists, we know that you're supposed to take up enough water according to the number of calories that you are feeding, according to our kgs, according to the number of the levels of physical activities and all that, and even the potential toxins. If you're drinking alcohol, if you're smoking, if you're doing drugs, of course, you need to now ensure that you increase the support to your liver and your detoxification system to get rid of the toxins without injuring your cells. But unfortunately, some of these toxins the body cannot metabolize, so they will definitely injure you even with good hydration levels. But it is better that you actually now practice the hydration than not. And of course, we also have things like maybe physical activity. As I have said, you need to get moving to promote digestion. Digestion actually promotes gut health. You also need to sleep well. As I have said, there's the gut brain axis, where now if you're not sleeping, because you see some of these enzymes or these compounds are actually activated when you're going to sleep, serotonin and such. So if you're not going to sleep at night, you're actually altering and bringing imbalances here and there, and that is not good. So all these actually influence microbial composition, and they have a positive or a negative impact in our gut health. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we're going to have the conditions that we have talked about, the dangers of ignoring the gut. You're going to have a lot of metabolic disorders. As you have seen, we have diabetes cases rising. We have people who are struggling with weight, insulin resistance, obesity, and the likes. There's also chronic inflammations because a disrupted gut barrier allows toxins into the bloodstream, and this triggers systemic inflammation. That is the root of most, if not all, lifestyle diseases. I don't think kuna any lifestyle condition that is not caused or that has no association with chronic inflammation. Of course, if you are alive, you're expected to be experiencing some sorts of chronic inflammation, but inflammation that is not chronic. But when it gets to chronic and your body is not able to self-regulate, then it becomes a problem. And of course, if you have gut issues, you're going to have digestive issues again. You're going to have mental and emotional health challenges, anxiety, poor moods, lack of interest, huko tu, So, and of course, we're going to have compromised immunity. So now, as nutrition students, Why is it important that you understand what I am talking about? Because one, the future of dietetics is microbiome informed. It cannot be ignored. So gut health is now one of the most research active fields in human biology. Like I'm sure you guys are on TikTok. If you go on TikTok, you search nutrition, gut health itakuwa pale juu. I get into TikTok I try. Maybe not so often, but I do try. Now kila sehemu ukiingia tu nikienda kusearch, because maybe that's where I get some source of the content, because I want to see what people are searching. Gatel tuko hapo juu, like it's constantly there, but mpaka I was thinking I need to now start refocusing my content to adapt to what people are looking for. And of course, it is also the center of research, what everyone is doing. All the scientists, everyone in healthcare, everyone in public health wants to get associations with gut health, because that is what is currently trending. And of course, we all know that prevention is cheaper than treatment. And this is something that we can use as an advocacy or as a tool, as a message to talk to our decision makers, our leaders, and even our people. Advocacy does not start when you get to the parliament building or you get to the boardrooms. Advocacy starts when you meet anyone who can influence decisions. You talk to them about why. Campaigns inakuja next year. We're going to have people with manifestos. Why don't we? And these manifestos hutengenezwa na binadamu. If we position ourselves well, we will be the ones drafting the manifestos, and we can slide in nutrition and some of the cheaper strategies like gut optimization to prevent and manage the rising cases of NCDs can also be part of it. It is very possible, it can be done, but lazima tujieke and position ourselves as people of interest. And of course, obesity and NCDs, as I've said, are rising in Kenya and globally, and gut-centered strategies can prevent metabolic decline before the clinical obesity, where these patients or these people become now sick, that they need to get interventions like now the surgeries, the lipos, and the GLPs, medication. And of course, personalized nutrition totally depends on microbiome knowledge. We cannot, like ni kama two fingerprints. No one has the same microbiome composition as you. But again, dietary factors. If doing some of these tests are not so cheap or viable for majority of Kenyans, but for someone who can do it well and good, they can actually have their gut analyzed, their microbiome profile actually analyzed. But if you cannot do that, it is okay. You can definitely get assessment data from actually now understanding what is happening, what is this person is eating, how their sleep patterns are, what medications they are on, their toxins exposures, how their exercise, physical movements, water intake, and all these are. And then you can be able to assess their risks of developing all these NCDs, or even the feasibility of your diet plan actually working, or to even know why a diet plan that maybe you prescribe for a client or even a patient is not actually working, from the habits that actually influence the gut microbiota. I hope tuko pamoja. And of course, as I have said, people are getting more aware. I told you, when you get to the search bars or even to check on what is being searched most when it comes to matters nutrition, gut health wapo top 3. So we cannot afford to ignore it. So as I conclude, remember that a healthy gut is not a trend. It is the foundation of human physiology. But by next year, we'll have something trending. Last year ilikuwa 10,000 steps. This year imekuwa OMAD and fasting. OMAD and fasting imekaka because it has been a trend for a while. And now, of course, we also have gut health. And it's a good thing that it's trending. But unfortunately, we also having other practices, or other people are actually now taking advantage and now loading people with herbs. I'm not against any herbs because I also sell them, but you need to assess the safety and the quality of the things that we are getting our people. And of course, we need to also make sure that we maintain the trend about optimizing gut functionality or the microbiome to actually now try and prevent the occurrences of diseases, metabolic disorders like diabetes, insulin resistance, obesity, and the likes. It's very, very important. And of course, your future practice will only be as strong as your understanding of the ecosystem that we have talked about. If you don't understand it, you can't practice it. Hakunanga shortcut. You just have to know what you can, how you're going to do, and all that. So those are my references. And yeah, this is my contact. You can, and remember that we heal the gut and we shape the future, and your gut and your metabolic health will actually thank you. So thank you so much for listening. My name is Lilian Momina. As I said earlier, I'm a registered clinical nutritionist and also serve as the National Treasurer of the Kenya Union of Nutritionists, and I am one of the co-founders of the Nutritionist Corner. So let's make sure that we preach, we talk, and we optimize gut functionality. Thank you for listening. I'm open to questions.